Okay, so I think we're recording. Yes. Okay, so again, I'm Mrs. Chilson. I'm one of the counselors at the counseling office at Chattahoochee, and we just want to make sure that we're answering all of your questions. Me and Miss Murray are on the line, and she's going to type down the question. I'm going to do my best to answer it, or at least give you an idea as to next steps, and then we'll kind of go from there. So if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll do it that way. We're trying not to have to go back and forth from the chat box. So I'd prefer if you just speak up and raise your hand and ask your question. So do we have anybody that had a question? Don't be shy. Okay, Sana, you have a question? Go ahead and ask your question. Or no,
can you get rejected from the college that you're applying to?
It is possible if you do not meet their minimum requirements. So if you don't meet their minimum requirements for the college, then yes, you can be denied admission. For Georgia State, the main reason a student might be denied is that you don't meet their GPA requirement, their age. Georgia State is only for 11th and 12th graders. They have a 3.0 GPA requirement. They also have I know that they say they're test optional, but if you haven't met their minimum standards, then they're going to ask for testing stuff, either from AccuPlacer or SAT or ACT. So there are some things that can prohibit a student from being admitted. Same with Gwinnett Tech. Gwinnett Tech, you have to meet certain test scores in order to be admitted. They don't require a transcript or a minimum GPA at Gwinnett Tech, but you do have to send in test scores. And then Georgia Tech is very selective. They're probably the most selective out of the group. They only have a limited number of spots for the whole state of Georgia to do their distance math program. So that can be a little bit challenging too. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Is it Aisha?
It's Isha.
Isha.
Sorry, I was just wondering, like, I am finishing my Algebra 2 requirement by the end of this year. Do I still have to take the AccuPlacer test?
So far, the answer has been yes, from what I can understand. Even though you're in it right now, I think they're still going to put that out there for you to have to do because it hasn't been completed yet. So you're welcome to reach out to the admissions office at Georgia State. Their admissions email is admissions@gsu.edu, and they are pretty responsive if you'll send them an email. But from what I can understand, yes, you'd still have to take it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Pranav? Oh, Kate, did you have a question?
So for the application for GSU, I already put the transcript and stuff, and you already sent my transcript from the high school as well. So do I just have to wait to be accepted now?
Yeah, so what you do for Georgia State is that if you're a new student applying, you've got to do your application. I will send them your transcript after you send a request to me. We were doing it a different way, and this is a good talking point. But in the beginning of this whole process, probably about a month ago, we were just sending transcripts as soon as you did the interest form. I just went ahead and sent your transcript if you had indicated Georgia State. What ended up happening is that a lot of students had not yet applied. And so when I sent your transcript, they didn't have anywhere to match it up with. And so they got back to me and said, please wait until they've submitted their application to send the transcript so that their matching process it works out and it's easier. So that's why I sent a message to all the students last week just saying if you've already applied and it's still showing in your status check page that the transcript had not been sent or they're still waiting on it, to just send me an email so that I can then resend it. And I'm sending it to a special email address that's and uploading a PDF copy of it with your in-progress courses. So hopefully that takes care of that issue. Other than that, your test scores. If you have them, I would send them. If you don't, they may ask to do the AccuPlacer test. And then it can take them up to 21 business days to process a file. So that's where Georgia State may take it just a little bit longer to go through all of the nuts and bolts of your application.
Okay, thank you.
But definitely check the status check page on Georgia State, the associate's degree site or whatever, the perimeter location. You are going to want to definitely keep tabs on where you are in their process. That's something that a high school counselor cannot tell you. We can't tell you where you stand with the college process.
Right now, it just says like my application information, like when I click on the application status. So I was just like confused if I had to add anything or something because your transcript is already here, like the one that you sent, and then mine is also here too. I don't.
Okay. So beyond that, there's usually, once you get accepted, there's some next steps that have to happen. And usually they want a copy of your immunization records. They might want, there's usually a couple of other things. Your proof of residency that you need to upload to them. So there are usually some additional documents that they request. But that's after you would be accepted.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, let me scroll down, see who else I'm missing. I'm seeing Mr. Seraphin. Mike? Did you have a question? I'm not sure. Mike Seraphin. Okay, he's muted. How about Christopher Wren? Did you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Hi.
You're saying that Georgia State is only eligible for juniors and seniors, but there was one portion to where it asked my kid, what current grade are you in? And he put 10th.
It's rising 11th. So if he's a current 10th grader and is trying to do it for next year, that's totally fine.
Okay, perfect. And
yeah.
the other question is, 1 second, I got this on my wife's email. Is Gwinnett Tech, does that transfer to a 4-year college easier? Because she apparently heard a rumor the tech school is harder to transfer credits.
So Gwinnett Tech and Georgia Tech, just to be clear, are two different schools. Gwinnett Tech falls under a different accrediting body than Georgia Tech or Georgia State. So because of that, sometimes the technical school can be a little bit more difficult to transfer. But if you're staying in state, and this is where you've got to do your research on it, but there are a lot of classes that are completely transferable. Usually the English 1101, 1102, your college math, a psychology, your histories, things like that. Your typical core classes, normally those are transferable, but if you get into the down and dirty of every little bit of classes, that's where you've got to do your due diligence to make sure, like if you're trying to go to the University of South Carolina or to Clemson or to Auburn, you would have to double check and make sure. You would have to do the same thing even for Georgia State, but Georgia State is a 4-year institution, whereas Gwinnett Tech's only a 2-year college, and so that's where some of the differences come in.
Okay. One more quick question: is Georgia State, is that the old perimeter college?
So Georgia State University originally was located in downtown Atlanta, and I used to work there a long time ago. And then they merged with Georgia Perimeter College, which I also worked at separately. And so they merged, and they're now just Georgia State University. But there is a location in Alpharetta, and they still go by Perimeter. But the Perimeter location's technically the 2-year school, but all the classes fall under Georgia State University. Technically, when we get a transcript, it's from Georgia State. It's not from Perimeter.
Okay, so if my child gets accepted to the GSU, which he applied for, would it be the Alpharetta location?
If you indicated Alpharetta on your application, the application for dual enrollment students to go to the Atlanta campus, they have a totally different expectation for GPA. They expect all their students to take classes on campus. Like the Atlanta location is a different ball game. So as long as she or he put Alpharetta location, and then if a student chooses to want to take something online, you're not, because I had a student email me about this. They were worried because they didn't indicate online in their application, but that's not how it works. You just indicate Alpharetta location, and then when you register for classes, you're choosing your setting. You're choosing hybrid, or you're choosing online, or you're choosing face-to-face. And so it just, it's easier to kind of think of it in terms of the perimeter location is typically Alpharetta.
Okay, because that's what I put. I put GSU/perimeter because I didn't know to put Alpharetta. But okay.
Yeah, it's probably fine. And if you have any concerns, you can always email that admissions@gsu.edu, and they could answer your questions specific to your application.
Okay. Okay. That's all the questions I had. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, we're going to go up here to Pranav.
Hi, sorry, my mic wasn't working.
It's
like,
okay.
A few minutes ago. But I wanted to ask, I think someone else asked this in a previous Q&A session, but we have to fill in separate forms to sign up for fall in dual enrollment?
Okay, so what ends up happening for us, I'm assuming you mean on the contract or the funding?
Yeah, I think maybe either one. I'm not really sure.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, the dual enrollment contract that is due tomorrow, that is like step 2 on Naviance. And it's a contract, it's probably a 5-page document where you and your parent are agreeing to all the rules that come along with dual enrollment. On that contract, you can list multiple schools on there. That's less important on that part. Like I have some students that are applying to Georgia State and applying to Georgia Tech. Or if they don't get into Georgia State, their backup option is Gwinnett Tech. The contract is just giving me an idea of what you plan to take and what you're gearing up to do. Now, once you get a little bit further into Naviance, there's some funding applications. Your funding applications it's really 2 parts. The funding is you're doing the Georgia Futures application. You can list up to 10 colleges on it, but you would probably only list 1 or 2. You need to make sure that when you're creating your Georgia Futures profile, that you list Chattahoochee High School as your high school and not Chattahoochee County High School. There's another high school out there called Chattahoochee County High School, and if you put the county in it, it doesn't come to us, it goes to the other high school, and then it's really confusing. Okay, so that's just tip number 1. Also, as you're working through that process, even a student that does not have a social security number is eligible to do dual enrollment. There are instructions on the apply tab of the Weebly as to how to do it if you don't have a social security number. Just covering that because that's a question I've gotten a couple of times in the last week. Also, along with the funding, the second step of the funding in Naviance, well, the first part is the Georgia Futures application. That goes to your high school counselor and to the college. But we at the high school have to fill it out first. The only way we know what to list is by, I'm getting some feedback. The only way to, this is going to drive me nuts. The only way to do the funding is by doing a Google form, and there's a Google form for summer, a Google form specific for funding for fall, and then there will be one for spring, but there's not yet because we're not registering for spring yet. So that will come later. So what ends up happening is that the student, if the student's only taking fall classes, for example, at Georgia State, they would fill out the Georgia State funding form. It's really a drop-down box where you're telling me I'm going to take Psych 1101 in the fall, and I'm going to take English 1101 in the fall. Great. Then your counselor knows exactly what to fund for you for the fall semester. I have had some students do it incorrectly, and they've put their whole plan for the whole year in the fall funding. I mean, I can figure it out based on what their contract says, but just to be clear, there is a summer one and a fall one, and there will be a spring one, because we have to do separate fundings every time, every semester, which is why dual enrollment is a beast. I mean, it never ends for high school counselors, because we're constantly having to go in and do more approvals. I'm not sure, Pranav, did that answer your question?
Yeah, sort of. I'm sorry, I should have clarified, but I had already filled in all the applications. Also, I wanted to mention for the previous question about AccuPlacer. I am also taking Algebra 2 this year, and
Okay.
I'm going to finish. And I actually emailed them for GSU at least. They said you don't need to take it, but they said as of right now. So
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think you got that answer, and then in another person from Georgia State, a totally separate person over in dual enrollment, they were telling me yes, the AccuPlacer is required. So I am too getting different answers. So I just say go through the process, and then they will tell you what you need to do based on your application.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Those are great questions. Isha, did you have another question?
Yes, I actually kind of have like two, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Piggybacking like off of what I asked about the AccuPlacer for Algebra 2, do I also have to take it for my lit credits? Because I'm also finishing up my second lit credit this year.
Only if they request that from you.
Okay. And do you know like how we would go through the process with the AccuPlacer, or should I ask the admissions office?
No, so on the Weebly, if you go to the Georgia State tab of the Weebly, I list the testing information, the testing office website, and you can go there and get that information. I had somebody do it with me one day just so that they could walk through it, and it was pretty easy. You have to go through a separate site called Examity. First, you go through Georgia State, and then they'll send you over to Examity to pay for it and to actually go through the rest of the process. So it is a little bit, because Examity is a virtual way of doing it. Now there is a way for you to take the test in person, but I think those spots are limited.
And is there like a specific deadline we have to submit our AccuPlacer results?
So for Georgia State, the one thing that they have shared with me is, well, I should say they share with me a lot of like details, but the one thing I know for sure is that if you haven't gotten all of your supplemental materials in, including testing, by July 1st, they will not continue with the process at that point. So please make sure that if you plan to do Georgia State, that you get all of your materials in prior to July 1st, or else they are not going to continue working with prospective dual enrollment students. They kind of have that as the cutoff. Now, I would like you to get it done way before then, because your choices are going to be very limited for class choices if you wait to get accepted or move through the process. The biggest thing for Georgia State is that a lot of students want to take the online classes, and so those will fill up. So if you're trying to take an online course, they have a lot of sections, but think about how many kids in North Fulton high schools are trying to take classes through Georgia State. It's a lot. And same with Gwinnett Tech. It's very similar. Classes will fill up if you don't get on it soon enough. But you're not allowed to register. You're not allowed to register for classes until you get through their whole process of it being accepted, doing all of their next steps, doing their orientation, reading their emails about how to get registered. All of that stuff gets sent to you in your Panther mail, which is why I'm so wanting students to make sure that they check all of their mail and check not only your Fulton County mail, but your Panther mail or your Gwinnett Tech mail. You've got to be looking for that information.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chilson.
You're welcome. Mr. Seraphin, are you still there? I see your hand raised, but when I called on you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Are you there?
Awesome. Yes. Sorry about that.
You're okay.
Ashley unfortunately had to leave, so I told her I'd ask the question. Since we started this process, she changed her mind in the number of classes that she wanted to take in this her upcoming junior year. So she was originally doing 2 in the fall and then 2 in the spring.
Mhm.
And so we didn't know if she needed to change her material with you with regards to the dual enrollment contract.
The contract has to be updated.
Okay.
And just page
So
2. So page 2 is where she writes out her intended schedule. That's really where
Okay.
we want to see the change.
Okay. So we've also emailed her counselor, Miss Jones, because obviously by changing a class with dual enrollment, she needs to accept another class on, Chattahoochee. So we've
Right.
emailed Miss Jones to alert her of that.
Okay, that's perfect. And Miss Jones is on top of it with paperwork and all that stuff. So, and if she has any questions, she'll get with me.
Okay. And for the students that are asking about the AccuPlacer, Ashley has completed the AccuPlacer at Alpharetta, and they did require her for both the English section and the math section before that they would allow her to continue on with the process.
Okay,
She did
that's
have
good
to
to
go
know.
take.
Yeah.
And also the one thing I would also add, Ashley was looking to do both Gwinnett Tech and Georgia State, and unless you specifically ask for the specific test to go to Gwinnett Tech,
Yeah.
you can't, they don't send it over, and it's an additional $50. So Ashley now has to go take the AccuPlacer at Gwinnett Tech as well.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, so they can send test scores, but I do think that you have to do some sort of request ahead of time or something. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Wren, did you have more questions?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Okay, take your hand off so I don't keep seeing you.
Gotcha.
Okay. Okay, Janice Lee.
Yep. So I'm on the Georgia State application right now, and
Okay.
it says that we have to list our all current and upcoming courses I will complete this year.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if it's the courses of this current school year or like 2021 or.
Yeah, it's just this school year. And just so you know, I did ask them about this specific question to the admissions rep. And what he said is that this application is used not only for dual enrollment for incoming freshmen, for transfer students, the same application for everybody. And so some questions, fill it out to the best of your ability, but know that we are sending a transcript to back it up. Now, once you submit your application, you need to email me and tell me so that I will submit your transcript for you, okay? But yeah, on the application, just list your fall and spring courses for this school year and then let it go.
All right. Also, what do I put for when it says that, like, am I planning to take the GSU classes on my high school campus?
That would be a no. So a few years back, Georgia State professors actually came to our campus and taught on our campus. And it was kind of a mess trying to get all that scheduled. But I know that there's other high schools that do that. And so that's what they're asking. But you would not fall under that, so just say no.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Arthur Mehu.
Yeah, do we have to do the acupunctures?
My middle schooler just got home, sorry. So, Arthur, we did just address this a little bit, but what school are you considering?
GSU.
Okay. So when you're going through the process, after you've submitted your application to Georgia State, you're going to email me and you're going to say, please submit my transcript to them. After I submit your transcript to them, they're going to evaluate whether or not you need to take the AccuPlacer or not. So they'll tell you whether or not you have to take it. Students are getting different answers depending on what their transcript says. So I usually will submit it with the in-progress courses so that they can see your whole year schedule and not just first semester. Are you by chance in Algebra 2 right now, or are you a 10th grader?
Both.
Okay, so because of that, my guess is that yes, you're going to probably have to take the math and English accuplacers, but that's up to Georgia State to make that decision. Okay?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Pranav, did you have another question?
Yeah, so I got accepted to GSU recently, and I plan on applying for a certain course this summer.
Uh-huh.
I was just wondering, before I apply for it, do I have to get approval from my counselor? And if so, by when?
So for the funding for summer, we approved those weeks ago. So if you did the summer funding app for us, I think the deadline of Miss Murray, do you remember what that deadline was? It was like March, early March, maybe.
For summer funding?
Yeah, I don't
Oh,
remember.
that was February 26th.
February 26th is when we did it. So if you've just now added yourself to the funding form, the Google form for your counselor to look at, you might want to send your counselor an email just saying, hey, I'm trying to take a summer class. Can you please make sure my funding is done? I only say that for summer because we had to approve those as high schools. We had to approve those February 26th. For fall, for Georgia State, we had to approve those by, I think it was like March 19th, maybe. So anybody that had done the Google form at that point all got approved. But if you did it late, then, you know, we might need a little reminder, but we're checking those pretty regularly. So it's just one of those things that it's complicated with Georgia State because even though they gave us that deadline, I don't think that they've done their part yet. And I'm not exactly certain when summer registration was going to open. Did they email you about that, Pranav?
I just received an email telling me that I need to complete my next steps for GSU, but
So you're
I
not
think
ready yet to register. They're not going to let you register until you do all of the next steps, the orientation, and then you can register. And your funding is part of that.
yeah, okay. Also, I just wanted to mention that I'm pretty sure I did complete all of that.
Okay.
Stuff.
Your counselor would know. I mean, I'm the coordinator, but I don't check every student because we have probably close to 400 interested students at this point. So every counselor handles their own paperwork, their own dual enrollment contracts, funding apps, all of that goes through your own counselor.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Akshaj? Everu?
Yes. So my question was just that so like I've recently had like some transcript issues with the GSU admission, but said they fixed it today, like as of like March 30th.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering what is like sort of the acceptance deadline for the summer dual enrollment thing? Because like I know
Well, I
you
know
said
they're
like
trying to
deadline.
get, I mean, I know registration is probably starting fairly soon because summer classes for Georgia State and for Gwinnett Tech really start in May. And so if you don't get registered quickly, then you're not going to be able to do it. Now, if it doesn't work out for summer for dual enrollment, your other possibility is to do Fulton Virtual School or Georgia Virtual School if you were really trying to make room for a class for next year. You can still pay to do a GAVS or a Fulton Virtual class because that registration will go through the end of May.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
The thing is that Georgia State in particular, you know, they just have so many steps and so many processes. I mean, this is college admissions. So you're going through the college admissions process and hopefully they can get things done quickly. But if they don't, you need a backup plan.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see who else we got on here. Mr. Seraphin, did you have another question?
Yes. So I know that the state of Georgia only pays for 30 dual enrollment credits. If a student wants to go past those 30 credits, is that a problem with Chattahoochee, or is there a process that we have to go through?
Well, the biggest issue, I mean, it is messy, and the reason why is because it can no longer be listed on the transcript. It can't be part of the schedule, so it's in addition to your 6 classes that you're taking with us. And then beyond that, um, several colleges, including Georgia State and Gwinnett Tech, have told us that they will not allow a student to do self-pay unless they have exhausted all their funding. So after you get done with your 30 credits, if you wanted to do it, you might be able to. And they have usually a system for billing, but it would be, you know, completely, I mean, just kind of on your own, which isn't necessarily ideal.
Okay.
The self-pay stuff is just, it's way more complicated than it used to be, especially because there's now a cap on hours. There used to, I mean, a year or so ago, we just didn't have all these rules that we have now.
Yeah, so Ashley, that's why we changed Ashley's schedule, because originally she was going to do 4 classes this year coming up.
Yeah.
And then she was going to do a full load in her senior year, which would have given her close to 40 credits.
Yeah.
I was perfectly happy paying for the additional credit hours, but
Yeah.
then I chatted with someone and they said that it kind of like what you had said, with that it was messy. So I just wanted to see if, what the, if there was a way around that, even if I'm willing to pay for the extra hours.
Yeah, it's just complicated now because the colleges, I mean, many of them have said we're not going to do self-pay. And I think it's just because of collecting that money, and it's not as easy as it once was, I guess. But I don't know the specifics of the budget stuff with the college. I just know that we wouldn't be able to put it on a transcript. We wouldn't be able to, it would just be in addition to her 6 classes that she's doing, which that sounds like a lot.
Yeah, so like I said, she was originally looking at doing 4 this
Yeah.
upcoming year, and then she would have done probably 15 credits in her senior year,
Right.
fall, and then 15 in the spring. So that would have put her at
Over,
close
yeah.
to 40 credits.
Yeah.
So,
Is she planning
that's
to
why the
stay
change.
in state?
Well, we're looking at different schools,
Okay.
and basically we're matching up. Like Alabama does a real nice job with matching our credits as well. So
Yeah.
between Georgia Southern, Georgia State, UGA, Alabama, they're all really good in accepting all of the
Yeah.
credits. So even with Nikki, right now she's on a 1-for-1 match with all of her credits for dual enrollment that she
Yeah,
did.
usually with Georgia State, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I would say, the benefit if a student is staying in state is that normally a student would probably qualify for HOPE, and so that would, alleviate the cost there. But I hear what you're saying too. But it's just not what it used to be.
Okay.
Sana, did you have a question?
Yes. So if I transfer to a different school, would I have to apply for dual enrollment again? Or would my application just...
Are you talking about transferring as a dual enrollment student or
No,
as
as like a high school student. If I transfer to a different high school, then would I have to apply for dual enrollment again?
Okay, so you'll have to follow that school's process. So whatever, if it's a Fulton County school and you've already done our paperwork, it's the same paperwork across the county. But you have to update your funding information with Georgia Futures to now tag the new high school, because we would not fund you. It would be the new high school that's funding you. And then if it's out of county, if it's like Forsyth or Gwinnett or Cobb or somewhere else, then you would have to get with that county to see what they allow. So it doesn't automatically transfer. Now, your college admissions would all be the same. So we've had students that, for example, are at Gwinnett Tech, and then they move high schools. You're still a Gwinnett Tech student because you applied as a college student. And that has nothing to do with your high school per se, but the funding piece of it is where the hang up is going to be. Like, who's funding you?
So would I have enough time to get it done? Or would I be like past the deadline if that was the case?
I would go ahead, if you think you want to do it, go ahead and do the process now with us. And then if you get to the new high school and they'll let you do it, then great. But you'll have to take that up with them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? I just don't want you to miss out on an opportunity if it's something you really want to do. Okay, did we have any other questions? Ms. Murray, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. These are all really good questions. What's going to happen is that we are going to post this recording and all of these questions to the Weebly tomorrow. And a student then could pull up the PowerPoint, see the list of questions, and kind of go from there as to how far into the recording they might need to go to get their answers. But yeah, we're currently on question number 17. So I sometimes feel like I'm running a radio show when I do these Q&As because, you know, none of y'all have your faces on, which is fine. But I just feel like next caller, who has a question?
Ms. Chilson, I don't know, I've been through this process a couple of times with Nikki. So for the students that are on here that are new to it, I'll give a little bit of advice.
Yeah, that's great.
There is, so pause is where you're going to go and register for classes, and it will tell you about any registration holds you have. So I think you were mentioning
that's
in
for
this
Georgia State. So pause is specific to Georgia State. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And so you, in some cases, you have to go back to your application where they gave you your application decision to start uploading that material. So they'll ask for like proof of residency or you know, other material that they might ask for. So you have to play between both for a little bit of time until you complete the registration process. That was the biggest issue when we had with Nikki that we ran into, is sometimes it was in pause and then sometimes it was in the application of
the
GSU
status
that you had to
check
go back and
portal.
forth.
Sometimes, yeah, you got to upload things to that status check page, and then other times it is in pause. Yeah, it's confusing for sure. It is a lot of steps. I mean, if you can make it through the process, you're going to be golden moving forward. It's just these little things. And for my Gwinnett Tech kids, I do feel like the process for Gwinnett Tech is way more efficient and faster than Georgia State. But they definitely need test scores at Gwinnett Tech, and they will accept a PSAT score. So there's directions on the Gwinnett Tech tab of the Weebly as to how to request your PSAT scores to be sent. And so, you know, that's another thing to consider as well. Gwinnett Tech, too, offers the online classes. If you're looking to stay in state, I think Gwinnett Tech is a great option. Sometimes it's not a great option if you want to go out of state. It just depends on whether or not the classes will transfer. I'll be honest, I think we worry less about transferability as high school counselors. Not to say it's not important, it is, but our goal is to get you graduated. And so if it meets graduation requirements, then that's a high priority for us. And of course, I have a lot of students that like to take electives, and sometimes the career tech electives at Gwinnett Tech are better than the ones that are going to be offered from Georgia State. It just depends on kind of your path. And I know that I see several people on the line, so I don't know if Kate or Nicholas or Cameron or any of y'all have questions about your process, but I want to make sure we answer anything that you have. I can talk through a little bit about the dual enrollment contract because I do get a lot of questions about the contract just about every day. The biggest thing about the contract is getting all the signatures. On page 2 of the contract, at the very top, the top chart, it's asking what graduation requirements you have left to fulfill. That is just an idea of what is left for you in order to graduate. What classes do you have remaining? You don't need to fill out everything you've taken or anything like that. You're just filling it in with what's still left. So it might only be American Lit and your senior English or Algebra 2 and you know, a senior math or an econ or whatever it is. Then in the chart below that on page 2, there's a summer, a fall, and a spring. The spring one is mislabeled. It should say spring of 2022, but it doesn't. It says spring of 2021, which is our current timeline. But you want to make sure that you're putting in your classes, what you intend to take for the whole year. So basically for fall, you're going to list your classes that you're going to take at Chattahoochee on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, you're putting your college classes, what you intend to take. It should total 6. And then same with spring semester. For spring semester, you're going to list the high school classes you're taking. They probably are going to be the same ones you put for fall because most of our classes are year long. And then you're going to follow that up with what 2 new or 1 new or however many dual enrollment classes you're going to take. So it should total 6. And then that gives your counselor an idea of what your schedule, what you're hoping your schedule looks like. That's the biggest hangup, I think, for the contract is just that page 2. I would suggest everybody get a contract uploaded with signatures by tomorrow. Fill out the charts on page 2 as best you can. If there is an issue with how you did it, your counselor is going to let you know. But filling out and making your best guesstimate is going to be way more productive than not doing it. For a student that does not complete the contract by tomorrow, they will be removed from all the dual enrollment stuff because tomorrow is our deadline. So just know that, you know, the 31st is the county deadline for completing all of this paperwork for the summer and fall. If a student doesn't get it done in time, but they still want to do dual enrollment next year, the option is to try again and get it all done by end of October. I think the deadline's like November 1st for the spring semester. But it's much easier to just do it now when everybody's in this groove than waiting. If anybody has questions, just jump in. I did have probably like 10 more students fill out the interest form yesterday, and all of those students have been added to their tasks in Naviance. Naviance is kind of our vehicle for processing paperwork. It is not how you apply to the college. You apply to the college by going to the college website and doing their application and following their processes. Naviance is just letting you know, this is your next step. This is what you've got to do. This is how you do it. Tell me that you've done it. Upload a screenshot that you actually applied. All of those kinds of things. So the contract and the application to the college are really the 2 big things that are due by tomorrow. Everything else you can get done at a later time, but the longer you wait to get all of these processes done, the longer it's going to take to get accepted and register. Now, Georgia Tech is the exception. Georgia Tech, they will have, their application doesn't open until May 15th. However, students that want to do Georgia Tech, even for the year 2 program, must upload their contract by tomorrow. So we're really expecting all contracts to be done by that point. I know y'all are so over me talking about dual enrollment. I'm kind of over it myself, but I know that this is really important and there are a lot of steps to all of this stuff. And there's a lot of details that if you miss something and you have to go back and do it, it can delay a lot of things like registering for your classes. I know that I was trying to see if anybody put anything into the chat. I don't see it. Oh, I see Mr. Seraphin's comment about your mic not working, but you did get it working, so good job. And then if y'all have any other questions, you can raise your hand or you can just shout out because, you know, we only have like 10 more minutes and then we'll hang this up. I'm trying to think if there was any other big ticket items that students have been asking me about.
Maybe that April 5th hold for Georgia State students. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Oh, yeah, okay. So any student that is trying to do Georgia State, Georgia State is notorious for putting holds on accounts. And a hold on an account means you can't register, you can't change any classes, you can't do anything until they remove your hold. And how that would play out with registration is that right now they're telling us that students can register on April 5th for fall, but you can only register if your holds have been removed, if you've been accepted, if you've done the orientation, if you uploaded all your proof of residency, all your documents, and done your funding application. And also your counselor has to have done their part. You can check your funding to see if your counselor has done their part, because it would say PSI decision pending instead of high school pending. It goes to us first. The high school takes care of the funding, and then it rolls over to the PSI. PSI is post-secondary institution. So the post-secondary institution, or the college at that point, has to do their part. They have to remove your hold in order for you to get registered, but they're not going to let you get registered on April 5th until you have been accepted, you've done all of their necessary next steps, and you've removed all your holds. And some of the holds are easy, like there's always a hold, something about emergency contact information. You have to just click through pause and check it and get it done. So yeah, definitely be checking your email for all the instructions, your Panther email. That's not going to come from me. As for Gwinnett Tech, because I don't want to leave them out, Gwinnett Tech 2 has certain enrollment deadlines, and Gwinnett Tech will actually charge a fee if you miss their deadline. So they will charge you like a $40 fee if you don't get registered on time and you want to register late for a class. They're going to charge you for that experience, and that's not covered through dual enrollment. So please make sure you follow all of Gwinnett Tech's deadlines. Kate, you got a question for me?
Is the Panther email something that you'd get if you're accepted?
Yeah, so you get accepted, and then the next steps that happen, it will tell you how to sign up for your Panther email.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And usually they say in the next steps, they'll say something like, wait 24 to 48 hours before you can get an email, and go through all the next pieces of information. But all of the next steps are actually, I put them on the Weebly site under the tab of Georgia State. If you scroll down, it'll say after you're accepted, there's a few more steps, and I just copied and pasted it from their website. But it's basically, you get your college campus ID, your username, you're going to set your password, your campus email, you need to submit your immunizations, you have to get familiar with the PAWS website, and that's where you can see your class schedule, actually register for your classes, view what your balance is, request your transcripts, like everything. A lot of things go through PAWS. And then when I say PAWS, it's PAWS, as in the Panther paw. And then you've got to make sure you did your funding application, which all of y'all should have done that, because Georgia State now requires us to approve it on the front end. They used to not make us do funding until after you registered, but now it's done before you register for them to approve it. And then there's an orientation. And then after that, then you would actually get registered. And at that point, Gwinnett Tech and Georgia State, once you register for your college classes and you've picked your classes, your class times, all of that, you will upload it to Naviance so your counselor can see it. Needs to be able to see your exact schedule. Some of the pitfalls of getting registered, I've had students register for wrong campuses, like they registered for they registered for a class out in Lawrenceville instead of the Alpharetta location, or they registered for Clarkston or Dunwoody instead of Alpharetta. They registered for a mini-mester instead of a full-term class. A mini-mester is like an accelerated paced class, so it only lasts, half the time. So these are things that you just want to make sure you're registering for the whole semester, you're registering for the right location, you're registering either fully online or fully face-to-face, that your times would exist in the right order with your high school schedule if you do want to be a face-to-face student, and that you have travel time involved. So there's a lot of little things that you're going to want to make sure that you, when you do get registered, that you do it the correct way. Okay, any last questions before we just wrap up? Yes, you can still submit your Georgia State application tomorrow or your Gwinnett Tech application tomorrow. That is totally fine. Tomorrow's the deadline, but you have time to get it done. And then make sure you're doing the application for the perimeter dual enrollment, not the Atlanta dual enrollment. You want to make sure you do the right application. And again, the guide on the Weebly, so chsmowr.weebly.com. And then at the top of that page, you can see the different tabs. There's an apply tab, kind of walking you through the apply stuff. And then there's specific stuff to Georgia State or Georgia Tech or Gwinnett Tech, depending on the tab. So that's a good way for you to review and go over all of that information. I realize that this is a lot of information and a lot of steps, but I try to make it as user-friendly as possible through Naviance. It gives you all of the directions in Naviance, but it also on the Weebly, all the recordings from all the Q&As, all of the information is available to you. But if nobody has any last questions, does anybody have any last questions? This is your time. I saw somebody ask something in the chat about, yes, you find out who your counselor is by last name. So like I have all last names A through DAQ, and then Ms. Johnson picks up right after that, DAR through HEM, I think. And then Ms. Murray's HEN through
MAR.
MAR, and then Miss Blunt is after that. She has like MAS through SEI, maybe. I'm guessing here at this point. And then Miss Jones has to Z. It's like, I know mine. That's all I know. But yeah, all that's on the website, on the Chattahoochee website. If you go to the counseling page, we all are broken down by alphabet. But yes, you should get to know your counselor. If you don't know who that person is, you should, introduce yourself. And I guess, that's about it for us. If y'all don't have any other questions or things that you'd like to ask, I think we're in good shape. Kate or Jameer or Nicholas, do y'all have any questions?
No, thank you.
Are you sure? I know that some of this is new information, but I want to make sure if there are any questions, we get them answered.
I think I'm fine.
Okay. And sometimes you don't know until you get moving on something and then a question pops up, and that's okay too. You can email your counselor. You can certainly reach out to me. I don't mind. And then we'll kind of go from there. Okay.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, bye you guys. We're going to sign off. It was great seeing you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I will post this recording tomorrow on the Weebly.
Bye everyone. Have a good evening.
Okay, and I'm going to stop the recording.